Hi, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Bethany Larson. I'm very excited for this interview and the opportunity to be recommended for this job. I am really interested in this job just because I find a big fascination with nutrition as well as helping children and building those healthy eating habits. I live here in Cedar City, Utah, and that's also where I went to school. As an RD, I like my interest for becoming an RD is just because, like I have already mentioned, I have an interest in nutrition, and especially I love kids and being able to help them. And growing up, I feel like I was very fortunate to have been given parents that helped me develop really healthy eating habits. And I've noticed that nutrition is an aspect of life that kind of rolls over and can affect all other aspects of life. And so I want to be able to help people to build those healthy habits so that they are basically set up for success in other aspects of life. And so that is a big reason why I am interested in this kind of field. And I think one thing that sets me apart, specifically working with children, is I am the youngest of 9 kids. And so I, at a young age, became an aunt. And so I was always surrounded with little kids, and I babysat all the time growing up. And so I was placed in a lot of opportunities and situations where I could help kids and interact with food and eating, because I'd step in as a babysitter for like a weekend, and I was there to feed them and provide for them and help them out. And so I got to be there as they interacted with food and kind of helped them to build those healthy habits. And so I think that kind of does put me at an advantage, because I do have that experience, not just with my own family, those children in my family, but also with kids of others' families, like the families that I babysat for. I was always able to participate in that as well. One of the questions is to summarize myself in 3 words. The first word that I would use is communicative. I am very good at communicating. I think in a work environment, especially if I have questions, it's not something that I wait. I just go right to ask. And with anything like mistakes or just anything that needs to be communicated, I do that immediately. I make notes so I don't forget, so that when my boss or supervisor, whoever is coming in, I have my information that I'm ready to give them, and I don't leave any details out. And so I do make sure that I have those noted throughout my day as I go. Something that I feel like I struggle with, a weakness of mine, is I do tend to take on a lot of tasks. And I feel like this can be kind of an advantage in some ways, is because I do tend to stay very, very focused. And it is actually something I'm working on, is to not take on too much that overwhelms myself. I've never had a problem with it so far. I mean, in all my work environments, I'm always usually able to get done the tasks and the responsibilities that I take on. But I do take on a lot, and I have actually recently just been doing some coaching with it to set goals on kind of how to organize my time. I am very organized already, but to maybe start new habits and try new techniques and goals to be able to help myself prioritize different tasks and how to work through all the tasks that I have taken on in a timely and very precise manner. But that kind of leads into my third kind of strength, I guess I would say, is I tend to stay very focused and organized, even though it is something that I'm trying to find new habits and techniques to work on. I do stay organized, focused. I kind of moving into a task, I already have an idea in mind of what I want to do to be able to accomplish it. And I think that helps me to be very efficient and get things done quickly. And so I think that's why I know I'm able to, and that's why I take on a lot, because I'm I know that I'll be able to get through all of them. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you handled it. Yes, so I used to work in hair. So when I first graduated high school, I was a licensed cosmetologist, and in that field of business, it does require kind of almost a learning curve once you get into the field. No matter how much you learn in school, you do kind of have to learn once you get into the field. And so with mixing up colors, it's a lot of like chemical equations and knowing how all that stuff works. And so there were definitely times when I would mix up a client's formula wrong, and instead of like not saying anything, I would immediately go to my boss and just be like, hey, I mixed this wrong. What should I do? How should I fix it? And then once I kind of started to learn more and I noticed that I made a mistake, I'd go to her and be like, hey, I made this mistake. This is how I think I should fix it. Is this correct? And so it was kind of like I tried to learn with it as I went, and then I would find myself knowing how to fix the mistakes if it ever happened. So that was really convenient because it was, like I said, it was just like trial and error, but an opportunity to learn and grow in the field and kind of set me up for a successful career there. The next question is, describe a time when a coworker or supervisor was wrong or you strongly disagreed with them. What was the action that you took to fix it? Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember at the time. I mean, I guess in general, like, people always make mistakes in the field of business, and just a few different jobs. One that I can think of particularly, I worked in an insurance company, and you know, when you're looking on like a person's account, you can see like different mistakes made. And so usually when I'd find those mistakes, I would either like direct message whoever made the mistake or go talk to them face to face, and I would just kind of be like, hey, were you working on this account? Did you by chance do this or make this note? And so instead of like being like, hey, you made this mistake, I would just kind of ask more like, oh, was this intentional, or did you mean to do this? Kind of more like clarify, because usually people don't really intend to make mistakes. And so when I'd ask about it, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice that I did that wrong. Let me go fix it. And so that's kind of usually the approach I'd take, is more like questioning it, be like, hey, was this intended, rather than being like, you need to go fix that, and trying to be very kind in my approach. Tell me a time you noticed a need within your team or organization. What did you do? A need. Yeah, so this is not in school or in work, actually. So in my church, I was given this responsibility, and so I was put on to this team, this organization, to be able to help the women in our church. And so with these group of girls that I was helping out with, I kind of came to them because I was like, I don't feel like a lot of these women in the church really know each other, and I feel like we need to build unity. So when we had all met for a meeting, I had brought that up, and I came with some ideas. I was like, I think that these would be different events or opportunities that we can get to know the women in the church and help them get to know each other. And so I presented this idea and kind of asked like what they all thought of it. And they all were kind of on the same page. Definitely felt like the unity aspect was something that was needed. And then we all just kind of worked together and took the ideas that I already had, added new ideas, and then kind of mixed them all up and brainstormed an event that we could, and we planned it together to be able to invite all these women in the church to come to, so that they could get to know each other and build that unity together. Accountability. What would you do if you were in charge of a kitchen during the food rotation and only half of your staff showed an hour before breakfast? Yeah, actually, this is in every single job I've ever had. If I was usually always working to closing, and there are often times when you get to closing and the work is not done yet, and I would always stay after at 30 minutes if needed, however long it took, to make sure everything was done that was needed to be done in that day. So I think in this situation I'd do the same. If I was just in charge to open, and if I was off after that, I would stay and help the staff so that the kitchen ran smoothly the rest of that day. And if I did have time to find if there were other people that could come in and help out that maybe weren't scheduled for that day, I would definitely be doing that as well. Describe a time you played a meaningful part in resolving a problem at work or at school. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the situation. Yes, okay, so there was a semester in school. So this is a school class that I had. There was a semester in school where I was very, very busy. I think I was taking 18 credits, I was doing an internship and working, and so I just didn't have a lot of time. My schedule was very, very set. And there was this class, it was a nutrition class actually, it was, I think, infant and childhood nutrition. And there was an assignment we were given to go visit one of the elementary schools and kind of like be present and observe like their lunchtime. And during that time I was working or I had class, and I always had something going on for all of the times that were available. And so in advance, before this assignment was even due, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make any of these appointments. And so I came to the professor with an idea in mind, and I was like, hey, my schedule does not allow me to go to any of these lunchtimes. Is there any way that I could instead use the experience that I've had in the past with nieces and nephews and babysitting, because like I previously already mentioned, I had a lot of experience with that and dealing with kids and food and their lunchtime. And so I kind of came with an idea already in mind of how I could still complete the same task and be able to do that review on like children's interactions with food and what we observed during that. And so I came with this alternative idea in mind and presented it to the professor, and she did approve and allowed me to complete that assignment in a different way. So I felt like just coming with different ideas rather than being like, hey, you need to come up with a different opportunity for me, I was able to kind of present that and help her out so it wasn't all on the professor. Okay, in the respect section, the next question is, tell us about a time when you had to deal with an extremely difficult or unhappy customer, patient, coworker. How did you deal with the situation, and what was the outcome? What would you do anything differently the next time? Yeah, so I actually worked in customer service a lot in my beginning years of college. I worked in 2 different customer service jobs actually, and dealing with angry customers is very, very common. And when I was fresh into the customer service, it was a little overwhelming at first, I'm not gonna lie. Being on the phone with a customer yelling at you is really stressful. And I definitely think in those stressful situations at the beginning, I'd be like, oh, I promise I'll fix this, like I'll take care of it. And sometimes I'd make empty promises. So I learned very quick, do not make promises that you cannot keep. So that's definitely something that I would make sure that in any other situation after that I wouldn't do, and I would fix the next time. But what I did learn was successful is a lot of these customers usually just wanted to call and complain and just be validated in the fact that like, oh, this situation is frustrating. And so when that was the case, I would usually just, let them share their frustrations and let them say what they needed to say. And once they were all done speaking, I would just kind of like let them know, like, I am so sorry, this is really frustrating. If it was ever like a misunderstanding about how the product would work, once they were done talking, I would usually, offer up some more information about the product and how it works. And sometimes it just needed more time given to it, and they just weren't informed that from the beginning. So I'd give them the information they needed. As well, I would just assure them I would try everything in my power to be able to fix the situation, and I would let them know that, I don't have jurisdiction in all the areas to be able to like refund money or whatever. And so I would let them know, like, I can put you on hold, I can talk to my supervisor. So I'd make sure I wasn't promising anything, but I was making sure they knew that I was checking all the areas and all the boxes of what I could do for them, and that I was genuinely trying to help them out. So I'd make sure they knew that, and usually when that was the case, they were always very satisfied and appreciative that I was genuinely trying to help. Okay, the next question is, can you give an example of how you have worked to build strong relationships with your coworkers? Yeah, so there was a job that I had when I actually first moved here to Cedar City, and it was a very busy job in the sense you were always on the phone with a customer. It was another one of those customer service jobs, and so there wasn't a whole lot of time to interact with coworkers. However, we were given breaks, and the breaks, usually you always stayed in the break room, and a lot of the times your coworkers in your breaks would line up, and it was always a different coworker every time. And so instead of keeping to myself during that time. I would always try to talk to my coworkers and interact with them. And I feel like I saw myself getting to know them, and so being able to reach out and help them when they needed it or when I needed help in the job, it was easy to reach out to somebody that I knew. And so I would always try to make that time, like my lunch break or my 15-minute breaks throughout the day, an opportunity to kind of meet a new coworker that was also on break, get to know them, so I felt more comfortable in the work environment and for them as well, especially when we had new coworkers coming in. I always tried to introduce myself to them, get to know them, and after work as well, walking to cars or even just whatever time outside of work we had to get to know each other and talk. I always tried to take advantage of that. Okay, do you consider yourself a leader? And if so, give me some examples of your leadership abilities. Yeah, I feel like in a work environment, I definitely can be a leader, but I can also follow direction and be a follower if needed as well. But I am definitely, in the jobs that I have been in leadership positions, I've noticed I am very much the leader that I like to lead by example, in that I try to stay on task, do what I know how to do, and do it the best to my ability, so that the people around me and my coworkers can see like, oh, this is how this responsibility is supposed to be completed, so they can see it firsthand. As well as I just try to be respectful to any questions that anyone might have, because being new to a job or having never come across a certain situation, there's always questions that arise, and so I try to be very respectful to the questions that are asked so that they don't feel uncomfortable and feel like they can't ask questions in the future. I always want them to ask questions, and so I try to reassure them in the areas that they're doing well and answer their questions, and then even if I can, like, offer assistance in helping them through it or showing them how to do it by example. So yeah, and then I just always try to just be available for help. Like if they had too many tasks that they weren't going to be able to complete, I always tried to be ready and able to kind of help take care of some of their responsibilities so that they wouldn't have to overly stress, and so that they would be able to complete their tasks with 100% effort and completion. And yeah, so I always tried to help in those areas as well. What are some long-term career goals or areas you would like to develop further? I think for now, moving up in leadership roles, just because the leadership roles that I have had in jobs are usually just over a small group. And so I think having the ability to move up to larger groups and supervising over that, and eventually I think starting my own business, just a small business, is what I would like. But to be able to start a small business with nutrition and helping little young kids to be able to build those healthy habits, like I previously mentioned, I think having just like a little side gig that I can do that counseling and be able to assist families in that way, because I do feel like the nutrition, it doesn't just affect the child itself, it affects their family and all those around them, and so I would like to be able to help families in that way. Anyways, thank you so much for the opportunity to interview, and I look forward to talking more.